Namaskar. Welcome to another episode of Editorial. My first topic is about petrol and diesel prices. In Mumbai, a litre of petrol today cost 91 rupees 80 paise. A litre of diesel cost 82 rupees 13 paise. Ironically, crude oil internationally is at a 2-decade low. Today, it is the cheapest in the last 2 decades. But yet, in India, we are paying almost 91 rupees. That's my topic number one. I want to understand today, why are we paying so much money? Why are we paying so much money and why are we being taxed for petrol? That's the question I'm going to ask today. My second point is about Joe Biden taking oath as the President of the United States, and he made a wonderful speech. Let's talk about the 5 top things that he said in his speech. The excise duty collection during the pandemic, April to November 2020, has increased by 48%, most of it due to the increase of taxes in petrol and diesel. So, petrol and diesel between April 2020 to November 2020 has been the source of income for the government. Before I get into this, let us get into some figures as usual. During April 2020, the excise duty collection was close to 1,96,342 crore. And it was up from 1,32,899 crores, which was during the same period, that is April to November in 2019. So that was it. Now, what is interesting is, this was despite the fact that over 10 million tons less diesel was used. April-November 2020, the diesel sales stood at 44.9 million versus 55.4 million tons a year back, that is April-November 2019. So the use of diesel was lesser, but the tax we collected was more, which means that the tax collected on diesel per litre was substantial. Same is the case with petrol. Petrol consumption was 14.4 million tons compared to 20.4 million tons April-November last year. Even petrol we consumed less during the pandemic. We didn't have the money and we consumed more, and we were not even roaming around, for that matter of fact. We consumed more during November and April-November last year, that is 2019, but the excise collection was more by 48%. Now let me give you some more details. Industry sources said the jump in excise duty was primarily due to the record increase in taxes on petrol and diesel during March and May last year. The government has raised excise duty on petrol by rupees 13 per litre and that on diesel by rupees 16 a litre in 2 tranches. This is how petrol and diesel excise taxes has been increased by the government. Now, with this, the total incident of excise duty on petrol rose to 32 rupees 98 paise and diesel to 31 rupees 83 paise. This is what the current status is. We are paying 32 rupees 98 paise per litre of petrol as taxes alone and 31 rupees 83 paise per litre as taxes alone. So we are paying almost half the money that we fill petrol, half the money of the cost of petrol is for taxes. Mind you, just before I go to my conclusion, I also would like to tell you that the excise tax on petrol was 9 rupees 48 paise per litre when the Modi government took over office in 2014, and that to diesel was 3 rupees 56 paise a litre. This was what the excise duty per litre was when Modi government took over in 2014. See, government needs money. Government needs tax money to function. So government needs to take taxes from us. Now, government it is our not just obligation, it is our duty to ensure that we pay taxes so that the government runs, so that the country runs. All that we understand. But the problem is, somewhere down the line, the government is also supposed to be someone who facilitates wealth creation in the country. The government needs to ensure that our exports go up. The government needs to ensure that our trade goes up. The government needs to ensure that our public companies, our public corporations, our public enterprises makes money. These monies are converted into profits which are used for the government's consumption and not just depend on people. Secondly, the government needs to facilitate wealth creation for people. Government needs to help people to create wealth. Creating wealth is not a sin. So increasing the cost of fuel implicates each and every product. It brings about inflation in the economy. Whereas if you create wealth, if you create wealth creators, if you promote wealth creators, a bulk of this is cushioned by those wealth creators because they have the money, they pay the taxes, and therefore the burden of the taxes, the burden of the inflation won't fall into the last common denominator of our country. The rich bears the burden of the cost. Today, a businessman, especially a small and medium businessman, he's scared. He's scared of GST, he's scared of IT, he's scared. There are one compliance after another. The only letter that he receives from government is that you have not paid this tax, this is the last day to pay this tax, this is the last day for this compliance, so on and so forth. There is no support that comes to him saying, look, what is your problem? How did you pay your staff in the last 1 year? No government asked you this question. Yes, the government has sent you a letter saying that the Baba last days of paying GST is this. You better pay, Baba, otherwise you are going to pay fine. So while government requires taxes, but government's job is to also ensure that the country makes money. How many Flipkarts have we seen in the last 6 years? How many Narayan Murthy's have we seen in the last 6 years? How many Olas have we seen in the last 6 years? How many Bejus have we seen in the last 6 years? How many new brands, how many new companies, how many new success stories have we seen in the last 6 years? Why are there no success stories? Why is success limited to possibly a few people? Why are there no success stories in India? More success stories, more wealth created, lesser pressure on a common man. In fact, every time there is a problem, it shows that the government would dig into your pocket to pull it through. And that's the question I asked tonight. Why? My last topic for the day is that Joe Biden has taken oath as the President of the United States of America. 2 points I want to make here. Point number 1 is the leader of a party, a leader of the country, a leader of the government builds the culture of that government, of that party, to a certain extent, of that country, at least the perceived culture of that country. That is the first point I'm going to prove to you. The second point, which I will say first and then we will get to the point number 1, is top 5 things which Biden said, which I thought was brilliant. So I will talk about top 5. I will just read out to you top 5 quotes of Biden, which he made yesterday. Number 1, Biden said, "This is America's day. This is democracy's day. The day of history and hope. Today we celebrate a triumph, not of a candidate, but of a cause. We have learned again that democracy is precious, democracy is fragile. At this hour, my friends, democracy has prevailed." A lot of them acted for their democracy. And today, yes, for them, it was the triumph of their democracy. And that is what Biden said here. The next statement that he made was, "I know speaking of unity can sound to some like a foolish fantasy these days. I know the forces that divide us are deep and they are real. I also know that they are not new." I don't know, I felt this line was close to home. So I thought I should narrate this line. Anyway, let's go to the third very beautiful quote that he made. Our history has been a constant struggle between the American ideal and we all are created equal and the harsh, ugly reality that racism, nativism, fear, demonization have long torn us apart. The battle is perennial and the victory is never assured. The fourth statement that he made was recent weeks and months have taught us a painful lesson. There is truth and there are lies. Lies told for power and profit. Each of us has a duty and responsibility as citizens, as Americans, especially as leaders, to defend the truth and defeat the lies. So very important. So very important. The best way to govern and the best government is that government that is transparent with the people, that speaks the truth to the people, that makes the people understand what is happening, good, bad, ugly, whatever. A good government is a government that treats people like matured citizens and not like infants. People know, people understand. And that is something, and at some time, governments forget. That's what his fourth statement was. And his last statement is, here's the thing about life. There's no accounting for what fate will deal you. Some days when you need a hand, there are other days when we are called to lend a hand. That's how it is. That's what we do for one another. I thought it was a beautiful quote. It was a beautiful quote. He says, I thought that was a beautiful quote. So that's why I wanted to tell you, these are the top 5 quotes, at least according to me, these are the top 5 quotes that Biden made yesterday. And now to tell you about, or show you rather, about 2 leaders. The way they communicate to the people, the way they interact with their citizens, the way they behave with their citizens. Just have a look.
We are now in the process of defeating the radical left, the Marxists, the anarchists, the agitators, the looters, and people who, in many instances, have absolutely no clue what they are doing.
But the American story depends not on any one of us, not on some of us, but on all of us, on we, the people, who seek a more perfect union. This is a great nation. We are good people. And over the centuries, through storm and strife, in peace and in war, we've come so far, but we still have far to go. We'll press forward with speed and urgency, for we have much to do in this winter of peril and significant possibilities. Much to repair, much to restore, much to heal, much to build, and much to gain.
Now, let me talk to you about 2 staff members of these two leaders. The way they act with their citizens, the way they behave with their citizens, the way they communicate to their citizens. Just have a look.
Some members of the media were engaged in deliberately false reporting.
There will be times when we see things differently in this room.
This was the largest audience to ever witness an inauguration, period.
That's okay. That's part of our democracy.
That's what you guys should be writing and covering.
The importance of bringing truth and transparency back to the briefing room.
I will see you on Monday.
Let's do this again tomorrow.
Thank you, Jen. The point that I wanted to prove through these videos is there's a very famous quote in Sanskrit, Yatha Raja Tatha Praja. The way the king behaves is the way his government is going to perform, and that is the way possibly the people will be acting. At least if not acting, at least the perception to the rest of the world is that the people are also like the king. So that's what we saw today. That's what the point that I was trying to make was. And before I leave, as usual, let me tell you, Do subscribe to our channel. Do share our content if you like it. And if possible, join our membership program in YouTube. It'll help us financially. Till I see you next time. Namaskar.